Europe and North America. I mean, I'm all for immigration. I've got nothing against people from other backgrounds, but that's not the issue here.
Exactly. By the way, you mentioned Japan, and I just want to run this by both you, Henry, and also our listeners, obviously, because there has been a little, now after this nuclear disaster, that this unfoldment here that is happening in Japan, there's been a number of institutes and globalist bodies that now have begun eyeing Japan and seeking, basically to exploit this catastrophe over there. One report was from the Brookings Institute called Japan Can Rebuild on New Economic Foundations. And that one included calls for Japan to throw open its borders, allowing immigrants to solve their aging population dilemma. They wanted to reform its political system to undermine spending. It goes on and on. There's other organizations involved in this as well. Obviously, the Council on Foreign Relations had some article in their magazine calling for similar things as well. So,
Henrik, it's obvious that Japan is coming in for the same treatment as North America,
right,
and Europe, and the solution to a declining population is to get rid of feminism and make the calling of motherhood and being a wife and mother respectable and honorable once again, so that women will do what they're intended by nature to do, which is to have children. For Christ's sake, it's common sense that if you don't have children, you're going to die out.
Yeah.
I mean, feminism is another social engineering psyop by these capitalist bankers in order to, depopulate the target races. Only an idiot would promote feminism.
You have written extensively on that, obviously, and there's a lot of very, very interesting information about that on your website as well, obviously, in case people want to look further into that. What I'm seeing also from my point of view, Henry, is this idea of, just as you, I'm not against immigration, but what I am against is the lack of integration, meaning that there is not a cultural dialogue going on, neither from the political spectrum or from people on the street, if you will. Even actually WikiLeaks detailed a while back a situation here in Sweden that many of the local politicians around in my area said that the integration aspect was a debacle. It's basically a big fraud. So what they've done is that they let a lot of people in from Iraq and from other parts of the world as well. But
exactly. These people, in general, I talk to people here in Winnipeg who are from Ethiopia and Sudan and so on. They don't want to be here. They don't want to go through our cold, winters.
Yeah.
They're here because of the turmoil in their homelands. The solution is for places like Tunisia and Libya and Ivory Coast and so on to be allowed to. People should be allowed to make a life, to have a bit of financial security. They want to stay in their own countries and have their own countries. All this migration is basically part of the New World Order plan to destroy nations. Ultimately, nations are going to cease to exist.
Yeah.
because they want to, as they say in the Protocols of Zion, which incidentally is authentic, we are going to undermine every collective force but our own. And these collective forces are nation, first and foremost, religion, family, and race, and that's what they're doing. It's the whole conspiracy is totally explicit, but people seem to be resigned to a kind of servility.
Yeah. See, I think that I believe you're right, and that there's a kind of a digging up, if you will, of people's roots as well, and it seems to be kind of an erosion of culture happening as well. Now, what do you think would be the purpose of that, or if I ask the question differently, what do you think happens to those kinds of people who all of a sudden then lack cultural identification, or they're cut off from their homeland, or they're kind of taken up by their roots, if you will, and put somewhere else. What do you think happens with those kinds of people, Henry?
Well, the kind of immigrants that we're getting in North America is kind of ironic. They have very strong family values, Muslims and Filipinos and so on, and they're and to their credit, I mean, they're maintaining their values, and therefore they're going to thrive. And I'm all for them maintaining their values, but I think countries like Sweden and Canada should put a quota. We're not going to have more than 20% of our population from other racial background and religious backgrounds. We want to retain our religious and racial character. There's nothing wrong with that. You wouldn't expect China or Ghana to have 50, 60, 70 million or 70% of their population all of a sudden be white. You wouldn't expect them to have that. So this is all part of this, kind of mixing up, this effect like a box of Smarties with people of all colors and just shake it up. The purpose of it is so that people will not have any basis to unite, and so that people will be divided against each other and not see who their common enemy is. That's what the purpose is.
So, in a way, what do you think will happen on the streets of many of these countries and cities that have? I mean, what I've been able to tell a little bit of is that there is a kind of an order out of chaos scenario. Again, going back to that Masonic, motto, if you will, that this is about creating. First of all, then you let a lot of people in, and then, as I tried to point out, that you do not work with integration, so that these cultures can actually understand each other and understand why they're there, and how to work together and try to overcome certain of these things that will cause problems, because that's just the way it is. Everybody is not the same. They have different cultural values, and therefore things will clash, right? But what seems to be the outcome of this then is kind of you get gangs almost, if you will. You get small little pockets of different people in different parts of the city, and integration is not happening. And out of that possibly comes that idea of order out of chaos. And the more chaotic it is on the streets, Henry, the more the reason is for them to bring in their further control, the furthering of the police state, the furthering of cameras on the streets, and more police out there. What do you think of that? Is that possibly what they're going for here?
Yes, it's a kind of divide and rule thing, but you see a increase in the power of anti-immigration parties in Europe, and I think before it's too late, before Europeans are a minority in their own countries, they have to enact laws, to reverse this trend. But at the same time, I think I would extend a hand to immigrants because they're now citizens, and I think everyone has to work together to confront the common enemy, which is right. The central bankers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And their agenda, and their many agents who are generally put into power, and who run the mass media as well.
That's correct, and that's where a lot of these politically correct ideas are circulated as well, of course, trying to point out to us that there is no difference between cultures, there's no difference between people, and to some extent in some of these scientific reports, they're even trying to point out that there are actually no races, and I think that's the wrong thing to do. I think that it's a wonderful planet with an incredible amount of diversity out there, and what I'm seeing in the mainstream press is that is trying to be, eroded away with these politically correct ideas. What do you think, Henry, about that?
The real racist is the person that wants racists to disappear. They're the real racist. They're the enemy of race. They're the enemy of the minority. They're the enemy of the black and the Asian, because they want to intermarry, and then all the races will disappear. It'll all be, some kind of chocolate brown, and they're the enemies of race. The real person who loves other races is the one who wants to see it continue.
That's right.
Who wants to perpetuate it. And, I'm a Jew, but I love Nordics. They're gorgeous. They're beautiful people, and I don't want to see Nordics disappear. I love Muslims. I love their family values. That's the family of man, The family of man is various races having various strengths and weaknesses, and we're all part of one big family. But the reason that isn't being encouraged is because, as they said in the Protocols of Zion, we're going to undermine every collective force but our own, and that's why they're doing it.
Yeah.
They're also undermining family by attacking gender. Not only are we going to have one world, one race, one satanic religion, we're also going to have one gender. There's not going to be male or female. That's why there's the satanic attack on gender that's taking place. I think we have to realize that we're under attack by Satanists. This is an occult attack. It's ancient, it's evil, and it's getting worse every day.
And
it's totally occult in nature.
And humanity is in the crosshairs here, Henry.
Absolutely. They basically want to prove that they can turn us into their little donkeys, and that we're corrupt, that we're venal, we're craven, and we're cowardly, and they're succeeding, and they basically want to take us away from God and make us serve their God, who is the devil, Lucifer. This is deliberate. They are conscious Satanists. They engage in satanic rituals, including human sacrifice, the biggest of which is the wars they instigate.
That's right. That's a good point. We always think that this takes place in some, murky underground facility somewhere in a temple or something. But you're absolutely right. It happens in broad daylight. It's being transmitted on TV, as it were. It's all the wars that are taking place out there. And furthermore, that's a good point about war as well, Henry, because obviously a lot of the, as you pointed out earlier, a lot of the immigration that is now happening is obviously consequently because of a lot of the Western powers that are engaged in wars in many of these countries. There's a reason why many of the Iraqis want to flee from their homeland, because it's being bombed to smithereens, right? So it's not their fault.
Oh, exactly. These people don't want to leave their homes. They want to stay in Iraq and so on. It's just that it's all, we're suffering from a cancer. Humanity has this cancer where all the control systems have been invaded, and we're essentially being colonized by a satanic power of incredible sophistication and power. And frankly, I'm not very optimistic.
Mm. What do you think about the recent banning of the burqa and niqab in France? Before that, there was, I think it was the building of minarets that was not allowed in. I think it was Switzerland. Is this furthering the racial tensions? What do you think? Is this any good?
It's a kind of contradiction. They're always preaching diversity, right?
Mm.
And now all of a sudden they're being extremely intolerant. I mean, they preach diversity. They're basically trying to shut the barn door after the horse has left.
Right.
The solution would be to keep immigration down to a level of about 20%, period, so that 80% of Frenchmen are of the historic European Christian origin, and yeah, let's have 20%, 25% even minorities. This adds a lot of vitality and variety to life. But and now they're, in order to save their own hides, they're changing their policy. But frankly, I think it's wrong. I think when people should be allowed to wear their hijabs or whatever, maintain their own religious identity. I think that really contradicts their own philosophy.
Yeah, because how can you? First, you let people come in and say, "Welcome, here we go," but then you ban the way they want to live their life. If nothing else, that is going to create demonstrations understandably. It's going to create anger and maybe even at the end of it violence, because these people cannot live the way they want to live.
You know, the bottom line is that we have to look at the fact that it's this Illuminati, Masonic. Illuminati means Masonic. The Illuminati is a secret society within Freemasonry. It's this Illuminati bankers who, who've set out their agenda in the Protocols of Zion very clearly, set it out in the Illuminati papers of Weishaupt, and they're just carrying it out systematically without changing